People with ADHD. What are the things about it that people just don't get? Story 1. I once saw an excellent explanation of ADHD paralysis on a YT video. A guy held up a pen, one of those ones that has multiple switches that each attaches to a different colored pen head. He explained that someone without ADHD is able to pull down one pen head at a time and use it as they are supposed to. That is their focus. A person with ADHD is not able to use only one pen head at a time. Everything happens at once at the same volume, at the same priority in an ADHD brain. It is like trying to trigger every single pen head come out of the hole at once, but if you do that, they all get in the way and block each other. Thus, not a single one is able to fit through the hole. The pen can't be used. Never have I felt more understood in that regard than after seeing that video. That is literally exactly what it's like. Story 2. ADHD often comes with an auditory processing disorder, especially in women. People don't understand, I can hear you just fine, I'm not going deaf. It's just what you said to me is either processed as complete gibberish, or if there are multiple other sounds in a small area, I input them all at the same volume. The TV is the same volume as the dishwasher, which is the same volume as the dog scratching her back, which is the same volume as what you just said to me. It's sometimes impossible to sort unless I am looking at your face as you speak to me. Story 3. Hypervigilance is fucking exhausting. It's like the dumbest version of what the guy in Psych does, except it's all anxiety-based and intel gathering for better masking. You're spotting micro-expressions on people's faces, or sauce on their tie, and wondering if they don't like talking to you, while also trying to guess which chicken sandwich shop they ate lunch at. Now you're thinking which shop is your favorite, and then which country invented fried chicken. All of this stupid information is a traffic jam blocking what Bill from accounting just said, and you just want to run. Story 4. There's a lot of things that folks with ADHD deal with that sound super relatable to everyone, and makes them say, haha, oh yeah, I'm like that too. One example I've noticed is that, if you've got something you have to go to later in a day, such as a doctor's appointment, it's hard to get anything done before then, and it feels like you're just kind of existing until then. The problem then, and the big problem with having ADHD, is then having to try and explain just how massive an issue it is for someone with ADHD to someone who does not have it in comparison. Like what a massive wall this late appointment is to get literally anything done. It's hard to explain how a minor inconvenience for most is a colossal problem for us. And that's partly because it is just extremely difficult to explain what is happening in your head, especially in a way that makes any rational sense. The best I've heard it put is that it's like trying to knowingly place your hand on a hot stove. Story 5. I wish people understood that ADHD doesn't just affect your ability to focus. It really needs to be renamed. ADHD changes your brain chemistry and the way that different parts of the brain communicate with each other, which means that it has a ton of symptoms that affect every part of our daily lives. We have trouble with executive function, which means that no matter how hard we may want to do something, we may not be able to force ourselves to do it. We struggle with motivation because every task is high priority, yet our brains don't reward us for completing them. We have sensory issues because we cannot control which things to pay attention to and which things to block out. Some of us, like me, are not capable of blocking anything out unless we're hyper-focused, in which case I will sometimes literally forget to breathe. We have auditory processing issues, and I couldn't tell you why. As far as I know, it's just to make our lives harder. On the bad days, speech has no meaning. It's just sound. It's like the adults talking in Peanuts cartoons. We want to listen, but it's just noise. We have trouble regulating our emotions. It's different for everyone, but for me, emotions are either unbearably intense or non-existent, and there is no middle ground. There's so much going on for us at any given moment that it's no wonder we can't pay attention. It's exhausting. It's not cute or funny, even though we do enjoy poking fun at ourselves. I don't think it's much of a stretch to say that most of us would give anything to have our brains function normally. Story 6. The lack of object permanence can also be a real doozy. Sometimes I can go months without talking to a friend, and that can be extremely hurtful to them, even though it's never intentional. Meanwhile, I can pick back up in the relationship as if I saw them the day before. Story 7. Helped my best friend move halfway across the country, essentially spur of the moment a couple months back, and plucked something out of her stuff she was giving away to Goodwill to send to a friend living across the country, because I knew she would absolutely love said thing. This was mid-October. I get back home and find myself with a lot of time on my hands. Nevertheless, it sat there until early December when I finally went to FedEx. A month and a half of need to do that, and it took like 15 minutes to pack and 5 minutes at the FedEx down the street. Story 8. Rejection, sensitive dysphoria is a big one. RSD makes us sensitive to criticism and rejection, whether or not it is real or imagined. This colored the majority of my interactions as a teen and made maintaining friendships very difficult. Seeing friends hang out with people not responding immediately, it made me very sensitive to the idea of being annoying, while simultaneously making me very annoying to interact with. I see so many adults with ADHD and untreated RSD that frequently lash out from a place of insecurity. Working on it will drastically improve your outlook on your social life. Story 9. One big thing people don't get is how exhausting it is to constantly have your brain jumping from one thing to another. It's like trying to focus on a conversation while hearing 10 other conversations happening in your head. Also, it's not just being easily distracted. It's about having difficulty organizing thoughts, managing time, or following through on tasks, even if you really want to. The struggle to just focus isn't laziness, it's a brain that works differently. People also don't realize how much energy it takes to try and keep up with everything. The feeling of being overwhelmed is constant. And let's not forget how frustrating it can be when people say, "You don't look like you have ADHD. It's invisible, but it's real." Story 10. Object permanence. If an object doesn't have a home where it belongs, it ends up in a pile or lost. If I can't see something, I forget it exists. There are a bunch of clothes hanging in my closet that I've forgotten exist because I don't see them. Dressers don't work. I have to fold my clothes and stack them on a shelf where I can see them at a glance. Food often gets tossed to my chickens because I found it at the back of the fridge when it's already past its prime. Grocery shopping once a week is really difficult because I have to plan and shop for a week's worth of meals, rather than just a meal or two that are on my mind at the moment. Edit, this started as a list. As someone pointed out below, this is not the definition of object permanence, though some people who have ADHD do struggle with it, myself included. Please don't go to your doctor and tell them you have ADHD just because this resonates with you. Story 11. That it's not that I can't pay attention, it's that I can't regulate attention. The distress at being overstimulated and not being able to calm my nervous system down enough to do something, anything, to get out of decision paralysis. That I don't mean to sound sharp and irritable, I'm just super overstimulated, and I feel like I'm being pecked to death by ducks while standing in front of a turbine engine. That I'm really good in emergencies. The calm, quiet clarity I get in a dopamine rush of an emergency means I'm definitely your go-to when things get crazy. That my time blindness has its upsides. If I haven't seen you in 10 years and then I do, everything I felt for you then I feel again. I never stop loving you. When I think of you, which is really often but usually in the middle of the night because I never sleep, which is why I don't reach out, I remember every positive, wonderful thing I ever felt for you, and I wish good things for you. Not staying in touch is not indicative of my feelings for you. If I ever loved you, I still do, and I'll always be excited to hear from you. That there are a ton of physical challenges that can come with ADHD. Hypermobility, headaches, huge sensitivities to anything from smells to touch to taste, to not having insight into when we're hungry or when we need to stop eating. Our brains just don't communicate with our bodies in the same way at all. Those are just off the top of my head. Story 12. Being told you're so smart, if you just applied yourself, you could do anything. Your whole life really kills your self-esteem. When I was a kid in the 80s, my mom refused to medicate me for my ADHD. Her logic? If he could remember the secrets to his Nintendo games, he could remember his times tables. After that, my mom beat me and grounded me for bad grades, and even allowed my stepdad to beat me bloody because of bad grades. All the while, every adult in my life, even the ones that were beating me, were telling me that I could just solve my problems by focusing, applying myself, and getting good grades. I was so smart, and they were so confused as to why I wouldn't just sit down and do my schoolwork. Even though a fucking psychologist told them why when I was in the 3rd grade. I was gaslit my whole life to believe that I would never be able to achieve my dreams at best, or stop being beat at worst. all because I couldn't do my schoolwork. Teachers, friends, family, all told me it was my fault, and I believed them. This carried into my 20s, where I fought my own brain to not end up in jail or in prison. I finally started my Adderall treatment at age 27, and it changed my life. I'm 45 now. It took a couple decades to learn that it wasn't my fault. I was a good kid, and the adults in my life failed me. Story 13. So way back when, you needed a natural herd inclination for some people to basically be awake all the time. Not the same people, but you wanted someone to keep an eye out for lions and shit back when we were monkeys. So some of us would stay up late, some would sleep a lot during the day and be up through the night, and some would wake up early because they went to sleep a few hours before everyone else. Fast forward to industrial England, because it's one of the first countries to industrialize. That's not really a problem. There's no predators and factories need bodies. There's also gaslighting being installed everywhere that can afford it. Now, it doesn't matter if your natural inclination is to wake up early or go to sleep late. The factory starts running at 8 a.m., and you need to be ready for work or you don't get paid. The factory owner wants it running from 8 a.m. because that's when the sun comes up, and he can rely on natural light rather than gas lamps to keep profits coming in. So all those late-nighters are now suffering because the factory owner won't pay them if they turn up an hour late. Story 14. If they can't see it, they don't think it's real. Not having an executive function isn't seen as a disability but as a moral failure. Thus, you are a bad person when you do something hyperactive, impulsive, or emotionally dysregulated. After diagnosis, I made peace with this and stopped beating myself up for all the ruined relationships, stupid things said or done, failures, and time lost to hyperfocus. Sure, I piss people off. I don't mean to. It's not a moral failure. And once medicated, I am seeing the world differently now. Most people who don't have ADHD don't get it. They never will. But that's okay so long as we can be gentle on ourselves and supported by those who do. Story 15. Time blindness is crazy. I don't get it on the small level, like hour to hour, but I'll swear up and down we talked to each other a few days ago, and it will have been months. My brain is going a million miles an hour, especially if I'm in an upbeat mood. I can't tell you how many times I've forgotten something as dumb as flushing a toilet just because something broke my routine. I got off the toilet and there was something weird on the floor in the corner, so I looked at it, washed my hands, and headed out. I'm not disgusting, I swear. My brain just breaks sometimes. If I remember to, before I leave, I'll take inventory. I washed my hands. I flushed the toilet. Keys, wallet, and phone are still in my pocket. I'll repeat to myself all morning. Take out the trash, take out the trash, take out the trash, put the trash in the bin, and then forget to wheel the bin to the curb.